Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Wizards Council. I'm John.
Matt.
I'm Abe.
Today we'll be talking about the things we like about 5th edition. It's one of the most successful versions of D&D, both in sales and in reviving the game itself, so we wanted to talk about why most of us here at the Council think it is one of the best versions of D&D yet to be released.
Buckle in, nerds. It's about to get spicy.
I don't like that.
You should like that.
I don't
You
like
love
that.
spicy stuff.
I don't know why I'm buckling in, but I feel
you-
the need to now.
I'm a little puckered actually.
Making diamonds over there?
It's something I added to your drink.
Oh. Well, guys, you heard it here first.
Oh, guys, it's... What's our first...
The council is mine! All hail the Black Wizards!
And that was the day in which the Wizards Council had its first coup.
And its last coup. All right. So, starting it off real exciting here with one of my favorite things that 5th edition has done. Bounded accuracy.
Dun dun dun.
I know, right? So, I really dig bounded accuracy, and it's been a journey for me. I hated the idea of bounded accuracy at the very beginning of this. Like, it didn't actually, make any sense to me, what it was, and I just, I hated the fact that my numbers in 5th edition were just dramatically smaller than they had been in the past. But after having played 5th edition for a while, I'm seeing how it's made a very, very big difference.
It's good to see that you're not seeing just size anymore, but it's the motion of the ocean that can make it work.
What can I say? I've moved on from being a size queen.
Yeah.
You don't want those anime numbers anymore.
I wanted those Diablo 3 numbers.
Yeah, you stopped wanting numbers. You wanted letters following your numbers.
Yeah, please, can I have 4B for my damage now? That would be great.
Can I have it in exponents?
Yeah, I need exponentially scaling damage. All right, we still have that. It's called Wizards.
Not that bad.
It's quadratic wizards, linear fighters. It's still a problem in this game.
Yeah, that would be a problem for every edition.
All right, so some of the things that I dig about bounded accuracy. So, ACs and DCs, your armor classes and your difficulty classes for skill checks and such, they're based on the actual circumstances. They're not tied to an arbitrary level, basically. Like 4th edition. 4th edition said that once you hit a certain level in the game, the DCs of the game just increased. And that was just because it happened. The monsters you fought had to be of a certain category. They needed to have certain minimum AC requirements for them to be considered in the balance of the game. It was a design philosophy of the game, which was annoying. It meant that if you went back to your starting town at the highest level of the game, that mayor would have a harder DC to interact with for no reason other than game balance. And that doesn't make any sense.
That or the mayor, there was no interaction in which the mayor could actually compete with you. It was that toss-up between the two when you're doing 4th edition of, it's either you didn't have it or that was meeting your level.
Yeah, and that's the thing is the DM could always choose to just say you don't need to roll here, but the idea was that if the DM's going to have you roll a DC, it was always at the minimum DC was raised. Mm-hmm. Even if it was an easy DC at hard level and an easy DC at early levels are just different numbers, and that doesn't make sense to me. An easy DC is always an easy DC. It's easier for you to achieve because, and 5th edition does a good job of representing this, it gives you you get your bonuses come into play. You have larger bonuses. 4th did as well, but their numbers were so much larger. There's so many other modifiers. They had to do something for the game otherwise you would quickly outstrip all those basic encounters. So I dig that. I thought that was really well done in this. And they kind of put some hard limits on it. Bounded accuracy kind of set a cap. That's kind of one of the big things it does.
Yeah.
And the cap it set is 30 for ACs and DCs. You will not see any monsters, and you will not have any difficulty modifiers in the game that are above 30. That's just the goal. That was a specific design philosophy of the game.
Yeah,
if you see something higher than that, if you make something homebrew with higher numbers than that, you risk breaking the game.
Yeah, because I think the highest monster standing AC is a 26.
Yeah,
I think it's a Tarrasque at 26 or 25.
I think I saw somewhere that there was another creature that
could be
maybe
one-
it has the same AC as the Tarrasque, though. I didn't look down that list to see where the Tarrasque stood in relation to that.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Tarrasque is up there. Is one of the beefiest examples of hitting that upper limits.
Yeah, because I don't even think there's because the only way I'm trying to think if there's any casters at a high enough level that also have shield as a base spell.
Mm-hmm. And there are in this game, there are ways through effort, through a lot of cooperation and coordination that you can break 30 AC as a player.
Yeah.
But players get to kind of be an exception to the rule, and it's generally frowned upon to really try for that. You can do it from Theorycraft, and if you're just having a one-off dungeon thing, or if the group's fine with it, you can go hog wild, do whatever you want. It's your game kind of thing. But the general experience is not designed around that happening. That's just a matter of that's what happens when you have so many rules together in a single game.
I want to say at the highest AC that most players can relatively easy achieve is in the 28 to 29 range. Without
with
magic
magic
spells.
items.
With magic
yes.
items without spells.
Yeah, and that's another important thing about 5th edition when considering things. Magic items are not factored into the game's balance, really. Getting magic items inherently puts you at a higher scaling of the game. Just it makes you go beyond its normal limits. And that's why 5th edition encourages limits to the number of magic items. It's designed to be much lighter than 4th edition and presumably 3.5. I don't have enough experience in 3.5 to confidently say that it was as magic abundant as 4th edition was, but I felt it was from my own experience.
I don't think it was abundant as 4th, but it was more abundant than 5th has it as a base.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's something else that I kind of want to go into. So while ACs and DCs have those limits, they also did limit the bonuses that you could get to your skills and to your attacks, things you could do to achieve and hit those numbers there. And the max to any attack roll or skill check is designed to be plus 11. Plus 6 from your proficiency, plus 5 from your attribute.
Mm-hmm.
That was it. And then your ACs are designed to kind of cap it at 20. If you look at the game, plate armor with a shield is 20. You can get that at a very early level. You usually need to do an adventure or two. You don't have enough money for plate armor.
Yeah.
No class comes with it.
That's your gate, is the gold gate.
Yep.
If
Yeah.
you're kind of held back until you reach that
Probably
gold
like a
point.
level 5 thing,
Mm-hmm.
I would say. Because it's a grand in it. It's 1,500 gold pieces for plate armor.
It is.
Yes.
1,500. It is
Yeah.
pricey.
Probably, if the whole party pays for it, you could probably do it in 2 or 3 adventures, but, by 5th,
Yeah.
I'd imagine you'd have it.
Yeah, and that's kind of the design, is that that's limited, and your class gets to distinguish you from what everyone else's limits are by giving you unique bonuses. The
Mhm.
rogue has a couple of things, expertise. The bard has expertise. The rogue also gets a really cool feature that sets its d20 roll at a 10 minimum.
Yeah.
And those things are specifically designed to kind of break the game.
Is that the 17 ability?
11.
11? That's 11?
It's 11.
That's so early.
It is. It's
so late, but so early.
It's good for the tier that you're getting it at, because
Yeah.
that means you can actually get some use out of it before most campaigns end.
At the 15-ish level, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, and I know the rogue best. That's kind of why those ones come to mind. But fighters get 3rd attack, and there's all sorts of other cool
Yeah.
stuff out there.
And I do it seems like the game is balanced about giving you more things to do. And for the martial characters, you tend to get more things to do than you get number bonuses.
Yeah.
Which is it's always more fun to make more attacks than it is to get a higher attack bonus.
But in fairness, the rogue and the bard get the expertise. The fighter, paladin, ranger, they all get the fighting styles, which
Yeah.
help boost them. The fighter and ranger get the archery fighting styles, which allow them to bump past that proverbial cap with
Yeah, definitely.
their
They
attack
do get some
bonus. And,
benefits. I just as they go along, they give them extra attack, which is fun.
yeah.
And then
more
there's
dice rolling is a lot more fun than number adding. At least for me.
and that's actually a really common thought process that people have, that DMs specifically have, is that rolling dice equals fun, right? Rolling dice equals giving control to the players, and more dice rolling means more of that stuff. I'm not necessarily. Like, I think there's a balance that needs to be acquired there. You have to be considerate of why you're rolling the dice. But class features obviously are like great at just giving you more dice from that stuff. I know I got a little bit further off topic on that thing.
In class, I do agree that sometimes DMs make players roll for checks more than they have to. Sometimes you can just tell them information because what's the risk of failure?
You're 100% right.
That's a whole other episode on DMing styles. And tactics.
Yeah.
It is. I may have also been checking something else and didn't hear the beginning of that conversation.
I completely expect that from you.
But I also really do like the bounded accuracy for simplicity of new players. When you have new players, this edition doesn't have a lot of math crunching, synergy.
It does not.
Like it's a plus and a negative. For new players, you don't have like, oh, if I grab this book and I have this plus, and then I grab that book and I get a plus 20.
Is that a +2 conditional, or is that an expertise, or is that an enhancement bonus? Is that
Are
a
you
morale
racial
bonus?
Yeah,
Is that a feat bonus? Like which bonus? Because you can't stack bonuses.
Like and that's one of the things
That's still a rule in this game.
And that's another reason why I think bounded accuracy is.
But now it's just you can't stack bonuses. It's not that you can't stack. You can't stack the same thing, but there's not like categories of bonuses to worry about now.
Yeah.
It's a little bit nicer.
Yeah. I think it's a lot nicer.
Yeah. And that's why I think
in
regards to 5th edition, that's one of the reasons why it has really done a good job of drawing in new players is by removing a lot of that excess.
Yes. Well, because
simplifying things.
Yeah, because older editions, bonuses would scale into absurdity. Like, you would be so good at something that if you rolled a 1 on the dice, you would still beat the hardest DCs in the game. And, like, while I like that, because I kind of like that, like, power fantasy kind of, like, element of gaming, it also can make it unfun for other players at the table if one person's kind of like, yeah, I rolled a 1, guess what, I charmed the pants off of, the king here, and now he's doing my bidding. It's like, I'm sorry, what? Hell, there was a story that somebody told me, and it was one of my favorite stories I heard, but it also reminded me of how utterly busted and borked like the old editions were. This person had a bonus to their performance that was so high that it met epic tier DCs when they were like level like 11 or something like that, or like level like 10 or something. And she was doing this like amazing performance, and a deity came down to listen to this because they were just like, this is amazing. No one is this good. So they're listening. And someone tried to fuck with her. And the deity's like, bitch, they're playing, and smoked them. And it was
love it.
And I was just like, fuck, that's cool. Fuck, that's busted.
Fuck, I'm afraid.
Yeah, right?
I've heard a saying about older editions like 3.5. If you miss, think for 5 more minutes to find the bonus you miss out on and add it so you can hit.
Yes. Yes.
Some places there's a conditional bonus you forgot to add.
Yep, you missed some math somewhere, and that's what fucked you in this situation.
And I like that isn't a thing.
Yeah.
Yep. Something else that bounded accuracy does, because bounded accuracy, so accuracy is just, I don't think I actually explained what bounded accuracy is. So
better late than never.
I'm gonna do that now. And so bounded accuracy so the accuracy is just how difficult it is to do something, right? And the bounded part of bounded accuracy is the upper limits in the game. And that's all it is. Bounded accuracy is that they've set upper limits for how difficult things are to do in the game, right? Bounded accuracy was also clearly not made by the marketing team of this game, because it sounds awful. It sounds like a bad thing.
Yeah.
So as part of that difficulty scaling that they introduced into the game, they made it based more on the health and damage and character abilities. So as you gain health, as you gain bonus to your damages and or more ways of dealing damage, and as you gain your character and class abilities, that's what's designed to scale you to the end game, not your bonuses to your attack rolls, not your ability to hit things. It's actually built such that even a level 1 wizard still has a chance to impact level 20 things. There's never anything in the game so high, or there's rarely things in the game so high that you don't have a chance of interacting with them. Should you be interacting with them at level 1? No. You don't have the health, you don't have the damage, and you don't have the class ability to do it. But it still means that even if you had no growth to your attack rolls through the 19 levels in the game, you would still have a chance at hitting them and could take the hits and deal the damage, and you'd have a variety of other abilities to contribute to it. Yeah. And that's kind of nice. That makes it easier. you're not as worried about stacking a bonus to your character to become impactful. All you need to do is play the game. By playing the game, you remain relevant in the game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go
ahead.
I also think that this is kind of going back to the magical items that you talked about a little earlier.
Mm-hmm.
But I like the fact that now, because people aren't chasing pluses to weapons and damages as much as you don't have to chase them as much as you did in other editions.
Yeah.
DMs can feel free to make more flavorful or interesting magical items that do different things, because they don't have to keep up with like the arms race like you would have to in previous editions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which I really enjoy, like not giving out a +3 item, instead giving out an item that has a couple of effects. It's much more flavorful and fun for a lot of players.
Yep.
Yeah.
I always felt in older editions, like 4th edition and 3.5, like the pluses on those items weren't there were there to keep you at parity with the game, so that way you met the new DCs you were going into, and the other items, the other effects on the item were what you actually cared about.
Yeah.
Like, yay, plus I can continue playing the game without feeling like I'm garbage. Also, I have these cool abilities here. 5th edition removes the need to give you those pluses and makes it so that if you do get a plus, it's to represent the fact that, hey, you are now exceptional. You're doing something game-breaking by getting this thing, and it should be a reward in itself. +1 items are supposed to be uncommon.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's actually one of the things about 4th edition was that magic items were expected at tiers.
Mm-hmm.
You needed a 5th, 1 through 5, you should have a +1, 5 through 10, a +2, etc., all the way up to 30. And that was the expected. You didn't have any ways to keep bumping your stuff. So if you're in a really magic light campaign, your numbers are going to be kind of on the low end, and hopefully your DM is properly planning for that until they released the Dark Sun campaign setting, where they released a more natural growth that you didn't need magic items. They didn't stack. So if you had a +3 magic longsword, you were, and you're at, level 11 or whatever it was to be effectively a +3, you weren't stacking them, but you were at a +3 whether you had that magic +3 longsword or not.
Yeah.
The longsword in theory should just give you cool stuff to do, like you were saying.
Yeah, the lack of need to have that now is nice.
Yeah, and here they just implemented it straight out of the gate with 5th, which is really, really nice. I like that a lot.
Yeah. I know I'm making it an effort to try not to give out many +X items in my campaigns from now on, because I know one, they break the balance in the player's favor, which I don't mind, but can be hard to balance, hard to like count for sometimes. And then you can do more flavorful things.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So as bounded accuracy, I really like it. I will say this: it's not perfect. There are a couple of things that I think are a little bit like off about it, but I don't think the negatives outweigh the positives that it introduces. Right. One of the big things is that because you always feel like you can be relevant because your class scaling is more impactful, it makes it feel like there isn't a reason to really like invest in your attributes. There's not enough reward and incentive to get your attributes, which I think, having thought on it a little bit longer as well, there's a benefit to that, because they introduced the fact that you could swap out attributes for feats. And it makes taking feats not as big a sacrifice, because I know when I first started playing 5th edition, I saw how powerful the new feats were. I'm like, these are awesome, I want them. And I saw that the cost was I had to give up my attribute. And in my mind, I'm like, if I don't take my attribute, I don't scale, and I don't participate. Fuck, how do I fit feats into this thing?
Yeah.
But, that does mean that you should feel comfortable just taking feats in the game. And heck, some feats give you pluses to attributes as well, to keep you with a little bit of that scaling in the game.
Yeah.
So I think that's fine. I still think that my frustration is that because of how poor attribute scaling is, I no longer see that there's no reason to plus an attribute. You should just always be taking feats unless you have no choice but to do so, because it has such a limited impact. Or you should just boost your con because of how important health scaling is in the game.
Yeah, I think
That's just a little bit of like I said, it's a small negative, and there is a positive kind of wrapped up in there.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that, in regards to that, where bumping your attributes, like it's all based on your class and in regards to importance of it. Because I do know, like, because I'm playing a bard in your group, I'm playing the glamour bard, and I feel a necessity to make sure that my charisma gets bumped up to that 20 cap. Mm-hmm. And the only reason I want to get to that 20 cap is because that's the number of times I get to use my bardic inspiration. And it also is how many targets I can include with my... I got it to an 18. So our group party size is 4. It's perfect. But if we have an NPC, guest, the dude's borked. He can't, or he or she is borked. She can't, get that extra movement. Doesn't get the temp HPs. Mm-hmm. And it's one of those things that it's like always kind of like that weird toss up of like, but if you can, if you're good early on, it's one of those things where it's like you were saying, you could forego necessarily bumping your stat because it's like, oh, well, I'll take feats that might up my stat by 1 point, and by the next stat up, I'll be a step higher, and I got these really cool features to go along with it.
Yeah. I think it definitely is. I can see how they do kind of make attributes unimportant, or not required to raise. Mm-hmm. But I can definitely see how some classes, especially like I was thinking the fighter, wants to raise their abilities higher because they want to make sure they hit, because hitting is what they do. Mm-hmm. But they also get the most ASIs, so that they can do that and still gain feats. Yeah. Which I just thought about as being an absolutely brilliant design choice by Wizards to allow them to like get the extra ASI so they can both level up their abilities and get a feat. Because they get like 2 extra ones compared to most classes.
They get 2. Yep. Rogues get 1 extra. Fighters get 2 extra.
Yeah. I just thought about how well thought out that was.
Yeah. It feels very intentional. Mm-hmm.
Looking at it through this lens.
Yes, looking at it through this lens here. And, maybe it is, like, maybe it's fine, the way it is, but it just, when you look at, like, the math for it and just kind of, like, how, like, small the impacts are compared to the size of the D20, like, I feel like I'm not sure what a good solution for it is. I'm not sure there needs to necessarily be a solution for it, perhaps. Like, ideally, advantage and disadvantage should take care of your issues with accuracy, right? You should get more ways to finagle doing that, and that should account for that. But I wish attributes felt more important than they do currently. Like, and John makes a very good point. Like, where you have class features that rely on attributes, you want to do that.
Yeah.
That's really the reason, though. And, like, class features, as I mentioned before, are already like the leveling mechanic of the game. So some of them do incentivize taking them. It just feels, I guess that's the goal. If you're definly take attributes that increase your class features, because your class features are what make you great.
Yeah, I think it's the. I wonder if it wasn't a design choice of, they want the choices to be active choices and not passive choices. So like, raising a number to get a bonus to your attack roll is kind of a passive raise, like a passive choice. But taking a feat to do a cool ability is an active choice. And so, like, raising an ability to make you be able to do your bardic inspiration more oftentimes is an active choice. Maybe that was the choice, to make players more active in turns. Because there are times I feel like this edition is more active or more choice-driven in a lot of ways. Not compared to 4th, because 4th is all about powers, and each power was a choice you made. Compared to like 3.5. I
love 4th.
Yeah, 4th has a lot of good things for it.
4th is a battle simulator. That's why I love it.
Yeah, it's a great tabletop big combat system.
It is. It's so
It's lacking in other places.
Yes, I won't disagree. Yeah. But so that's that. Another thing is, and this kind of ties into like the attributes. There's a small negative. I wish that expertise had some. Expertise is the way you specialize in this game, right? And expertise, like, it's a class feature that inherently breaks your limits, and it's awesome for those who get it. But only 2 classes get it. I would love to see an equivalent for expertise or something like that for the other classes, so that they could have ways of specializing, or a feat that would allow them to actually specialize. Because, like, there's no great way to specialize. in this game because increasing attributes doesn't affect your dice pool on your dice modifiers enough.
The only published way to do it is to be a human and take the human expertise feat.
They got rid of the expertise thing for it, I believe.
Human Prodigy gives you 1 expertise, I believe.
It did. I don't think it does anymore.
Oh.
Because I remember looking at that, and I know that one was printed in 2 different ways. I know in one of them it doesn't have it, and one of them it does have it. So I thought that was because I had thought about that one a while back as well. I'm like, oh yeah, humans can get it, but I don't remember if it's still there, if it got edited out. So that's another just small thing about it that I'd like to see, and that's something that can be like adjusted in your games, or you can look at doing. And heck, you can always just take a level of rogue. Rogues are awesome.
Prodigy does give you expertise.
It does?
Yep.
Okay.
And you can also still, like, I realize it's not the official material, and in some regards, because Xanathars came out and never got printed, there is still the skilled feats from the UA that have some options there for, at least, hey, I took this one feat, this one thing, or this one skill, I can make expertise.
Yep.
Well, it's not even just humans. It's half elf, half orcs, and humans.
Anything human.
I suppose anything human, yeah.
And half orc and half elf are implied that the other half is human.
Yeah.
There are no like half races that I've like really ever seen printed in like 4th and 5th edition that are half of 2 not human races.
I believe that is a like. I think that's a choice. Like that was a thought process that humans are the ones who can do the crossbreeding. That's something special about humans and their great ability to bend to be flexible.
Mm-hmm.
That they can breed other people, but nobody else can crossbreed.
They're able to bend without breaking.
Mm-hmm.
That's I don't know like why they chose because they want humans to be the okay at everything, great at nothing kind of race.
Mm-hmm.
They're the jack of all trade species.
Yeah.
That's us. Well, that's my bit. That's bounded accuracy. That's what I like about it, and those are the few little things that I think that could use some looking at or some consideration.
Yeah.
But otherwise, I love it. It's like all in all, as a whole, the best part. Like my favorite thing about 5th edition. Mostly because I love numbers. Like
well,
this shit gets me like solid.
Like
moist.
That number system also lends itself well, like I was saying before, to new players who don't know how to build a really strong character. Those like having a design like this allows it to be that they can keep up on an average.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you got a group of people that really know how to build characters and they, stack those numbers in their favor, you're going to see there's a difference between those 2 characters. Yeah. We have an experience like that at our current table where we have a very new player who's, statistically not nearly as strong. Yeah. But the numbers on an average are still high enough that she can participate.
Yeah, and that's the biggest thing. Like, as long as the DM doesn't like inflate to match, it's a balancing act, like between like inflating to match, but she can always be involved in the combat because she can hit CR 20 creatures even though she's only level 14. Because that's how the game is designed, and that is a great choice.
Yeah,
you don't need to have an optimized build to be an effective build.
Yes, and that is something that I love about Bounded Accuracy. Like this is the only edition that enables that to happen.
Mm-hmm.
It's the first edition that I know of that enables that to happen.
Yes,
like, those of you who know more, like if you know more about the old editions, correct me, tell me. But I doubt that other editions do it as well as 5th edition does. Especially combined with. I mean, they've learned so much. Like,
yeah,
they've made so many great improvements.
Well, each edition is a learning period.
Yeah, well, I think they also realized that. I think that because Pathfinder's out there, they kind of knew they didn't have to worry about trying to get number crunchy. I didn't want to compete in the number crunchy territory, so they were to go a little more. I want to say fluffy, but it's not really even fluffy. Just a little more loose. Plus the rise of all the. Plus, with the large rise of rules-like games that come out, this is a good rules medium game.
Yeah,
rules medium.
That's actually a great way of putting it.
I would say it's actually rules-heavy crunch medium, because rules and crunch are 2 different things. something like that.
Well, no, you're totally right, because they have a whole line of game. Like, there's a whole line of games out there that are like small scale, that are like Grant Howitt games, are 1 page of rules.
Yeah.
Which his are like the Crash Pandas. What's another one? Honey Heist is another one. Just 1 page rule sets.
Oh, yeah.
And that's all it is. And you can play the game, and you can play it they're usually one-shot sessions. If you go rules light, they tend to be light. Yeah. Because...
You just said a page. Yeah. That's the definition of a rules light game.
And this game's like powered by the Apocalypse systems that are like, low to medium crunch, but still open, Anyway, that's a whole other discussion we can get into about what that stuff means.
RPGs.
Yeah. But... So the reason why I'll go ahead and say I love 5th edition. 5th edition is by far my favorite edition of D&D I've ever played.
Yeah.
They've put role-playing to the forefront in this edition a lot more than they have in previous editions, by including a couple of rules that help mechanically reinforce role-playing in a way that's never been done before as well, in my opinion. And for that, I'm talking specifically about inspiration, and because it's tied closely to that, the background, traits, flaws, bonds, and
ideals
of characters.
I love those. The backgrounds, the ideals. That stuff
is
really, really helpful for an unimaginative fuck like me.
So having those two rules, they're both linked to each other, because inspiration is designed to go trigger off of those 4 things. Having those in the game really adds a lot. And so, like, people who don't know, when you pick a background, they suggest you have a ideal, which is the character's highest guiding compass, a trait, which is typically like a character quirk about them,
like 2 personality traits,
a bond, which is like what draws them or connects them to something else, and a flaw, which is what is a negative aspect of who they are. And you had to pick those. I'm looking at Matt right now because he was notorious not making any. They're part of the rules. It's not an option. You're supposed to pick them. They give you a table to roll off of to find if you don't want to think of an original idea or to riff off of for your own ideas. And then inspiration is simply the idea of inspiration is that when you invoke one of these character traits or bonds, ideas, or flaws, then you get to, the DM should reward you with inspiration, and the inspiration allows you to gain advantage on rolls. And just having this kind of cycle in the game of role-playing being able to be used for real mechanical benefit helps make roleplay feel more important at the table, in my mind.
Yeah.
And it shows that they wanted it to be more in the forefront. And, like, what roleplay is a discussion we get at a different point in time. But it's not the silly accents and being goofy. It's about making character choices that are not your choices.
Actually, I know what you're talking about.
Flaw is that he uses silly accents at the worst times.
Okay, well that would be great. That would be hilarious for you to price talking to the king, and then you get to hide the holder neighboring. That would be a great character flaw. That'd be hilarious.
Done. It's sold. Every time I do a funny accent, give me inspiration, bitch.
You have to do it in important situations, though.
You have to do it where it's a flaw, not just because you're doing it for the sake of doing it.
Yep.
Flaws got to be that's another thing that I do like about inspiration is like the way they kind of trigger. Like, flaw is supposed to be something that in theory is a detriment. Like, you're going to do it because it's going to do to bad, like, you're going to have disadvantage, or you're going to do the thing that is not advantageous in this situation.
Mm-hmm.
And you should be rewarded for sticking to your character's guns, so to speak. It's my character's flaw. Of course he's going to do it. Is there alcohol and women? Yes, he is off in that direction. But the mission's but the guy's going this way, And you can choose to, and that's another thing, is that you can choose to ignore that flaw, but then you're also, like, the idea of the flaw is to get that inspiration point back.
That's why you have multiples.
Yeah, you can, and that's the thing, is you can always choose to play on that flaw to get your inspiration, or you can choose to ignore that flaw, and, well, you're not going to get your inspiration point.
Yeah, and I know, and, like, that's a key point, is that the player gets to make the active choice to do it, to say I'm going to play in bond, and it has to be to the detriment to the objective detriment of the group. Typically speaking, when you play into a flaw or a bond, you'd be doing something that is less optimal but is more characterful.
Yeah,
is how inspiration is worded. But you get to make that choice, is if you want to do that or not as a player. I know that right now there's a lot of like inspiration isn't often used in games. And I think it's because it's a very new mechanic. It's very different than older versions. It relies on the DM being on the ball with recognizing what you're doing, which can be very tough because you need to know every character's personality traits and have them in your mind when they make choices.
It also can put a little onus on the players a little bit. It's nice to have players that might be like, I just, I'm doing this, and then you don't, as a DM, I mean, you're juggling all these things, and like you're saying, to memorize everybody's faults, to just get that just little reminder of like, oh, that's right, that was your, okay, yeah, here's your inspiration point, that's right. And it might just be a brief taking it out of the moment, but it's also it's a valid point. You need that inspiration point to use later on. Yeah,
and it doesn't help that most popular streamers don't use the system.
Yeah.
Like I know Matt Mercer on Critical Role, I've never seen him grant inspiration. I don't think I've ever seen him grant inspiration. I know that Matt Colville in his stream doesn't grant inspiration in the same way. He uses a whole different system for it.
One thing with inspiration, is if Matt Mercer was using inspiration system, all of his characters would always have inspiration.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the reason isn't just because inspiration is there to reward you because you play your character worse. It's also there to reward you for when you play your character well.
Yes.
If you play a compelling version of your character, you should be rewarded inspiration.
And that's the thing.
And those characters on Critical Role are compelling. They do amazing jobs portraying their characters. It is not just there to reward a negative. It's also to reward you doing good. Which, I don't know. I'm kind of not a big fan of inspiration myself, but, it can be great to draw out inspiration in characters, and it's a way to do that. And it does exactly what Abe says. It shows that they're trying to move away from D&D's origins. They're trying to grow with the times of what D&D's become, which is that of an RPG, a role-play game, not the battle simulator, exploration simulator that it was at the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was the thing. We didn't mention, that's a good point. We did mention a lot of how to play up that flaw, but also you do have your positive traits, your personality traits, your ideals, your bonds. All of those things can be used to gain your inspiration back in positive ways. Your group is your family is a bond, in which case you're gonna side against somebody you might really trust, and you're gonna side with your party. That's gonna be inspiration worthy.
I always view inspiration, I guess it has to be a compelling or interesting choice. I do think that the idea that inspiration shouldn't always be given. You can be characterful in a way that doesn't necessarily grant you inspiration because your characterful choice wasn't a compelling choice. I think that compelling choice is something that is meaningful in the moment, that makes a big deal out of something.
Yeah, and I can see how that can also because I agree in that regard, but I can also see how there's a little bit of people might not like it, might like it because there's this. There's got to be a back and forth between the player and the DM of not only trust, but also you need to understand the characters, and the characters need to trust that you understand their character enough that they don't have to keep begging for that inspiration point.
So much on the DM.
It does,
because the DM needs to know what all the characters at the table are, know them, so that way they can be appropriate in handing out inspiration. And that's, in my opinion, that's too much to ask of a DM.
I think players have to be more proactive in asking for it at the appropriate times they feel it's appropriate for them to receive it. And I understand this leads to a bit of a it can lead to over asking or under asking or over granting or under granting, and it's a tough balance. I'm not saying it's a perfect system.
Yeah,
they could definitely find a way to make it better, But I think it's less about finding a way to make it better and more about a different mindset in playing D&D.
And yes, I wholeheartedly agree.
Because it's D&D has such a history of a combat game, and then they're trying to change that, and I appreciate that because I, for one, love the roleplay interaction. And so, maybe in 5.5 or 6, they have a better way of doing it, or people have gotten used to the idea. I think don't throw it away.
Yeah.
Try to use it. Try to have the conversation about using it.
Absolutely.
And I think try to use it in the base form. There's a lot of really interesting, like, the Angry DM has a version of it, and a lot of people have different ways they do inspiration to try to make it more. They try to bring it into the game more, but it changes the idea of what it is in a lot of ways. Like, we use a system on our Saturday games where we all have a point, and we can only spend it when we do something that is in ideal with our characters' bonds, traits, flaws, or ideals. And that's a good way to get us using inspiration, but it changes the idea of how inspiration is rewarded in the game. And I'd rather we did something that was a little more classic. By the way, John.
Well, maybe we'll.
Yeah.
I need players to use it.
I know. It can't just be me.
I think also in that regard, players can self-regulate. I think being honest with each other as players and self-regulating the usage of it can be it can take a lot of the onus off the DM to constantly be the caretaker of like, that's okay, that's not okay. The other players, if they're not a group of people that are just like, I am going to try and get every plus I can possibly can and every advantage we possibly can out of this situation, everybody say yes. Right. If the players are just, be honest with it and just, treat it, I think players can, sheriff it pretty well.
And the other part of inspiration that's in the rules is you can grant your inspiration to somebody else if you think they did a good job. So if you are a person who gets it a lot from the DM, you can turn around and give it to another player if you think they've done well enough. And that does not need DM approval.
There you go.
That is like the 4th paragraph of the inspiration rules. Which is often overlooked too. Is that if you can grant it to somebody else, I think that at a table that's using this system to the best, any player would bring up to the DM. Like, let's say Matt made a choice that I thought was a really good roleplay choice, but he didn't want to bring it up. Then I think I should make the effort to say, hey, John, I think that deserves inspiration. Look what he did, even though maybe Matt didn't want to bring it up. And I think that's also a good way to help reinforce the idea of it. Because you also might not think of it as a comparable choice because it was so simple to you, but maybe somebody else sees it as being something like that.
I like that idea. I generally feel that inspiration should be more democratic than it should be dictatorial, like authoritative. I don't know, whatever. Fucking take your analogy, because I dislike having the DM be like the arbiter for what is and is not good role playing. Like that, like that. Yeah, that just it rubs me the wrong way. I think like I agree that the inspiration system is a step in the right direction, and I would love to see how they continue to incorporate role playing into the design philosophy of the game going forward. I don't think that. I don't need to bash it. Like it is just that's kind of how I feel about it, and but it's a step in the right direction. I'll leave it at that.
The other thing that I like about this edition, that's tied to this, is the idea of backgrounds as a whole. That your characters, that who they are is not their class. Who they are is what job they had before they became an adventurer. I think that it does a really awesome way of tying your character to the game world in a real meaningful connection. Because like saying you're a mage isn't really tell you who you were, but saying you were a cloistered scholar lets you know what kind of person you are.
Where you came from, what life you had.
Yeah,
where
exactly.
did you go?
Who do you know? Where did you come from? Where did you go from, Cotton Eye Joe?
I couldn't help it. I'm sorry.
So I just really like that whole system. That you get half, a quarter to half your skills from that. Your proficiencies from that really helps you understand and then the traits, the little benefits you get that I think people forget about, but can actually be really cool in the long term. That I know we've kind of recently used them a lot in your campaign, John, and I really like that. It's something we hadn't really done before in the past.
Yeah.
But it definitely made you feel a little more grounded.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I had one with my old character, and it has never mattered.
Yeah.
Bjorn was a sailor in the Underdark. It did not help him.
We sailed a couple times.
We sailed, and my skills were useful, but my feature did not matter.
Get you free travel on a...
Yeah.
On a boat. Yeah. We went below ground real quick.
Yeah. Well, no, and I didn't take free travel either. I took... No, I did take free travel? Or was I intimidating? I think I took the intimidating one, actually, that I had a fierce reputation.
Oh, yeah, because you're like a pirate or something.
Because I was a pirate.
Yar.
Yar! Pirate Bjorn.
I'm not saying all the benefits always work out.
Mhm.
But when they can be used, it feels really cool.
No, and that I like that as well about the background system in general, where it's just like, cool, you're a fighter. How did you learn to fight? If you're a mage,
Cloistered scholar.
Where do you learn your spells?
I read about it.
You know,
I read all the manuscripts. How to be a good fighter.
Yep.
yeah,
That'd be an interesting fighter background.
I actually like the idea.
highly academic fighter.
No, I actually like the idea that in your background you read a tome of physical strength, whatever. You don't take it. Like, it's included in your base attributes. Your character was just frail, just a little bit below average. But you read this thing, and you learned to become a great fighter, and you got that +2 to strength. And that's why you're a great fighter. But you are actually just smart.
And acknowledging at the very beginning that if that tome comes up again, you can't read.
Yeah. Oh, no, not with 100 years later.
Yeah. Coincidentally, I am a half-elf that is 100 years old.
101
I read
years
when
old.
I was born.
Yeah.
Get
Right.
fucked.
Right.
You're an elf. You're 400 years old. You read it when you were
Whatever.
350.
No, pick whatever the fuck I want.
Yeah, exactly.
But still, I like that concept.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is a really neat concept.
Mhm.
Yeah. No, the backgrounds were definite. I really enjoyed that part of the system, and they built it into character building and not just like, because in in 4th edition they added the backgrounds.
They added backgrounds in later on in the life that was 4th edition.
Well,
And,
they had them at the beginning. They
Did
were
they?
just tied to your... Yeah, because you could choose backgrounds for them, and they would give you things. They usually just gave you, like, a skill, right? But
Okay.
eventually they gave you, like, Born Under a Bad Star, Born Under a Bad Omen. You could choose an attribute other than
con to be your
strength. Oh, no, other than con to be for your health, yeah.
yeah. You can
Yeah.
you choose your highest attribute to be your.
Yep.
your
But no, those were
con.
there early, and they kept adding more and more and more,
Mm.
and the later ones got funky.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
not sure. I'm not sure what in 5th makes it. It feels a little different than it did in 4th. I'm not
There's
quite sure.
much more focus on it.
Yeah, I guess there's a bigger section in the book, and may talk about it more often in this edition.
And
Yeah.
well, the other one had backgrounds. They didn't have backgrounds in the sense that you had to pick your personality trait, your bond,
Oh,
your
yeah.
flaws.
Yep.
They didn't do any of that. They had backgrounds. 5th edition expanded upon it and gave you a gave you human connections to the
Mhm.
things versus just statistical connections for
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
And they did also give you a statistical connection in the form of inspiration, but inspiration's wonky and hard to use and awkward, but still rewards you for role playing.
It also
The audience, if you can hear just that little twinge in the back of his throat, we
But
maybe had tried this before one time and it didn't go so well.
but it also gave skills. That's the other thing the background gives you is a
Yeah.
set of skills that doesn't
And-
necessarily tie to your class, which is kind of neat. Like if
skills, proficiencies, and
Tools,
Tools,
and languages.
tools, instruments,
instruments, all land vehicles.
Which is just great. Like, I feel like that's one of the ones you should generally take. Because
That's one of the-
proficiency, like, guess what? My background is that I'm a sailor. What can you sail? Everything.
Any single boat ever devised anywhere.
If
And-
there's a boat, I know it.
And DMs try to find a play to use that.
Yep.
Because that's one of those things where we talked a little bit ago about like forcing people to roll is like I think we might have been saying that outside of the recording, but we're saying something along the lines of forcing somebody to roll when they don't need to because of their skill set. Just the DC should be lower.
Yeah.
It's sort of like I'm just driving a cart.
Yeah.
You know, there shouldn't be necessarily a check to drive the cart. Maybe putting the yoke and everything on the oxen and all that stuff might have some skill to it or understanding of it. But
Hold on, John.
no, I am actually powering through it.
Okay. Audience, there's something disgusting happening in this booth
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah. But if somebody does have that those skill sets for vehicles. Make somebody chase after the carriage. Make them flee, either flee or chase somebody down on sea.
Yep.
If somebody's got that talent, make somebody use it.
Yeah, something else that 5th edition does, and it's similar to 4th edition, it's they've dramatically limited the number of skills that are in the game, and which has expanded the amount of things that you can do with each skill, and they encourage in clever uses of skills, finding ways to use skills in unconventional ways, right? So that way you can use what you're proficient in odd situations.
Yeah, definitely.
One thing that I think is important with not just skills, but also tool proficiencies and such, just because it says in the book that they know how to use all of them doesn't mean they won't come across something that they don't know how to use. But that means that they are going to be uniquely equipped to figure out how to use it.
Yeah, they make a check with their land vehicle proficiency to see if they can understand how
it's
functions.
going to take you some time to figure it out. You might need to do a little something if it's something they need to do now, make them roll with disadvantage and go for it, right? That's what advantage and disadvantage are there for. They're not mechanics that you have to have something to tell you to use. They're a thing that you, the DM, can use in the game, right?
For those with skills, it's possible. Without that skill, it's improbable.
Yes.
It's not impossible, but improbable.
Yes. Yeah, you would have disadvantage without proficiency, and the DC would be up there.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's something to consider, and that's something that I like about limited skill systems. There is knowing that that you can be I'm good with everything, but I might come across something unknown here. Accept the fact that just because this thing says that you can do everything doesn't actually mean your character can do everything. It's unreasonable to assume that, but it means that you can pick something up in a much faster time frame than somebody else because you have that base of knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then the last section I have for things I really like about this edition is advantage versus disadvantage.
Yay!
And how that replaced a lot of the conditional bonuses that were all over the place and kind of different.
Yeah.
In previous editions.
Mm-hmm.
The +2 for this and -2 for that. I like the simplicity of you have something is in your favor, gain advantage. Something is against you, gain disadvantage.
Mm-hmm.
And we're done. Not worrying about all the different things that in previous editions you had to take into account, and especially I like it that I don't have to modify the player's math, so that players who aren't good at math don't have to try to redo the calculation in their head or add it on the step to what they're doing. They can just roll 2 dice, find the higher number or the lower number, and go from there.
Well, yeah, I mean, the first thing that comes to my mind is in 4th edition, if you're playing a character with one of the feats allowed you to add your charisma modifier to your AC against opportunity attacks. Well, in this edition, instead of trying to remember to add this number to your AC, it's now just, no, opportunity attacks come at a disadvantage. Just a straight, here's a simplification to it.
Yeah. And then it also means that it also gives DMs an easy tool to throw out the players, right? It comes quicker. I just like that. I like the simplicity of it.
Yeah, I think it's good as well. I think it helps cut back on the pluses that they have into the game. Yeah. And allows you to roll more dice, which is fun.
Yeah, it doesn't get a handful of D20s and go to town.
It's just it does sound better whenever you hear 2 dice roll together than 1 dice roll by itself and then another dice. Yeah. Them clacking off each other is just satisfying.
Yeah, smack them together.
Just
slap those dice together.
Anything else you wanted to say?
Is the loneliest number.
I know.
2 just as bad as. But
the loneliest number since the number 1.
Careful, we only get about 15 seconds before we get copyright.
3 is the loneliest number since the number 2.
That's
how that song goes,
I'm just
right?
so glad that he just borked it, so that way we're in the clear.
It's okay. We're gonna pause for radio edit.
Yeah,
radio edit.
Just one loud the entire way through.
We'll just throw the dial-up sound on here.
Oh. Okay.
And that's all I got. Everything else in the game sucks.
Oh, well.
Wow.
Fuck you.
Right? I know one of the things I've really enjoyed about the system thus far or this edition so far.
All right, well, that's where we're going to end our session tonight.
The fact that Matt can go fuck himself. And the thing that I like is that there's no splat material. A large majority of the material that has come out for 5th edition has just been adventures. And each adventure, you've seen like a marked improvement in the quality of those adventures and how well they're written and how they handle things. And that's been a big thing for me, because I know in the previous editions you had so much splat material that, especially for new players, you didn't know which ones to grab. 4th edition or 4th edition, you didn't know if you should grab. You go to Barnes and Noble or your local bookstore and you go grab a player's handbook. Are you supposed to grab 1, 2, or 3?
Well, 3 is the highest number, so it must be the best.
And there's the thing is like, oh well, maybe I should grab 3 because it has everything in it at this point. Rather, it only has a specific set of things, specific classes.
Hybrid characters?
That came in
Yeah,
the...
that's 3.
That's 3.
That's 3.
Was it 3? I
Yeah.
thought that came in the...
Psionics and
the
hybrid
one.
characters got introduced all at the same time.
Yep.
Hybrid characters.
But that's one
They
thing...
were great.
That's the one thing I'm happy about.
And balanced.
It's just that lack of splat material. It just keeps things nice and clean. Like, they only have one extra book right now, really, and they've done a good job of trying to incorporate a lot of that into it. The Xanathar's Guide to Everything kind of brought in a lot of what you saw in a lot of the character options, I should say, to
Play as companion to the elemental
elemental evil spells. Some of the spells from Sword Coast Guide.
Some of the subclasses.
Some of the subclasses. Not all of them, but some of
Wait.
them.
No, nothing from Sword Coast Adventurer's Guide made it in there, did it?
Swashbuckler.
All the rogue stuff. Swashbuckler,
and
Mastermind.
And so did all the Blade Singer cantrips.
Yep.
Oh, they did?
Yeah.
Yep. Quite a bit made its way in, but
I
there's
didn't think they did there.
there's a fair share of subclasses that didn't, like the
all the Faroon specific ones. So Battle Rager, Purple Dragon Knight, and Blade Singer didn't make it because they're supposed to only be in Faroon.
There you go.
Oh, that's why those were kept out.
Yeah, because Battle Rager is like a dwarf
Yeah.
bloodline thing. It's
Yeah.
Maybe
They're all
that's what
Faerun.
I will play in Curse of Strahd.
There you go.
all right. A random thought.
Yep.
Were you playing Battle Rager?
Well, I mean, I was originally playing like a bard, but now I might just play a dwarf battle rager.
But in
Give me a
place
hug.
of splat material, one thing that they came out with at the start of into this edition was the DM's Guild website, which is not necessarily like we approve it, it is law kind of thing, but it's Wizards approved. In regards to, this is a site that you can go and find extra material. It's not Adventure League appropriate. It's not canon.
I would say that makes sure that they are not reviewed by Wizards to being fair, to being balanced. So it's something to be aware of.
Yes.
But it is a place that you can go for a lot of material. If you find that you're lacking choices, you and your DM can find something on there, speak with your DM about it, and find new material. If you want unique subclass that isn't in the books, you might find it in the DM's Guild and bring it to your DM and discuss it,
Mm-hmm.
And the nice thing is it's a reviewed system. Like, so you have people that will leave comments of like, this is busted as hell.
Yeah.
And then others that will be like, no, this is the most highly reviewed version of the Way of the Four Elements monk that is out there that fixes a lot of problems that a lot of players have had with the Way of the Four Elements monk.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah, and also, I know like the staff there will pick out the ones that are exceedingly good and give them like recommendations, which is nice to see. And then it allows content creators to use some Wizards properties in the things they make. Because like if you publish on DM's Guild, you can use, I believe it's Faerun right now and Eberron, as you can use the lore and history and publish it in with your adventure.
Oh, that's really nice.
And make money off of it too.
Yeah, you make money off of it, and Wizards gets a cut. But you can use the copyrighted material in the adventure. You're right.
That's kind of cool to hear. But I will say that the lack of splat in this game is one of its downsides. I definitely think the amount of splat in basically all, at least 4th and 3.5 was too much. Far too much. And in games and in books and in everything, I would much rather that somebody take more time to ensure that the quality of product is up there. So I'm okay with them being delayed in splat. But if I had heard that they had committed to not releasing any splat material for 5th edition, I'd be like, I don't think this is my system then. Like, after a while, it gets stale.
Yeah.
And, like, you need to have some new content or the next system needs to come out. And I think some new content is great. Or at least, I think what's one of the things that, I haven't looked into it, but you were telling me about it, Abe, that they're going to be releasing alternate class abilities. Or they were talking about
rumored to do. I mean, they'll plan
or a new class.
The new class is coming out in the next Eberron book.
That's the Artificer.
Coming out in 2 months.
Yes, November.
Yeah, November.
The Scion?
No, the Artificer.
The
full release of Artificer is coming out.
Yep.
I know that one of their like the way they want to release it is they want to have one player option book, big book per year, along with one major adventure per year. It's kind of the pace they try to go with their releases, and which I appreciate. That means they take their time with the splat material, the extra material, so we don't get an overdose.
Mm-hmm.
But they could have started that process a little faster.
Please.
And then they do put out the UA that essentially gets play tested by all the players before it either makes the cut or doesn't.
Mm-hmm. Some of that UA stuff is just borked though.
Yeah, some of it's good.
The 2D6 Ranger.
Yeah, the 2D6 Ranger for the brief bit that it existed.
Yeah.
Or just the Scion or the Mystic.
Or the revised Ranger.
Yeah.
Still a little overborked.
It's fine. Just take a couple levels of it and then switch to something else. It's great.
Yeah, it's too front loaded.
Anyway, we can whinge about that later.
Another thing that I really like about the DM's Guild though is, as a DM, it's also a nice place to find material like adventures, like settings. Like there hasn't been a settings for like Dragonlance, but if you go on DM's Guild, you can find some stuff that is at least close to it.
Mm-hmm.
Due to copyright reasons, I can't slap Dragonlance on it, but they can put stuff out there, which is really nice. Because it does take a little bit of load off. If you're not one who can create whole cloth, you can have these little adventures. They also have there's a writer that put out an adventure that I really enjoyed, which was essentially choose your own adventure style setup that like Matt and I played through with Matt, and you could play through it multiple times to choose different options, and you can play different classes. You played combat the same way you would any other D&D, but when it came to the storytelling elements of it, you read it like it was a choose your own adventure kind of thing.
Oh, interesting.
It was actually a ton of fucking fun.
Yeah.
It was delightfully great.
Yeah, so you can find all sorts of those little adventures and game styles there.
Oh, something I want to say that I found very recently were one-page dungeons or one-page adventures. They are amazing. Players don't look at them. DMs look at them. Like, they are so cool.
Is it D&D behind the screen? Behind the screen D&D. It's a subreddit. I think it's D&D behind the screen on subreddit, and it is a glorious place to go to get ideas if you're a D&D, if you're a DM, to get adventures or just advice.
Yeah. Some of these one-page adventures are legitimate works of art on top of being a dungeon, like an actual like whole cloth adventure. And I say dungeon, they're not all dungeons. Like some of them are just like a town that has like been corrupted by like a shadow demon or whatever, and like it's so fucking. Just look at them up. They're cool.
Yes, it's D&D behind the screen. Subreddit r/D&D behind the screen. I can't. If you're a DM, I can't recommend enough going in there and talking to the people there. They are some of the most brilliant D&D thinkers I've ever seen.
I think that's also another thing that's been really nice about 5th edition in regards to like just the topic of finding a lot of material, because it's become such a hit at the moment due to various reasons. That there's such a community online for finding assistance with this. new and old players alike can be out there creating content that is easy to acquire and digest.
Yeah, and it's one of those, like, it came out at a time where we have all these online communities that can adopt the game. You know, it's not, and that's the thing that D&D did as much as a benefit of where it is in its release.
Yeah.
Yeah, we find these great communities.
Yeah. So, but that's my thing that I really love about it. Like, one of the strong features for new players is just the lack of, while it is a detriment to a degree, the lack of splat material allows for new players to get into it really quickly, because it's like, I need one book, 2 books. I could buy 2 books, and I have all the content that is out there for building and creating characters.
Yeah.
That's going to be a Goliath. Or Tabaxi. Because Goliath you can get from Element Evil.
Yes.
Tabaxi you can't.
Yeah.
You want to be cat people.
There's a few
Tabaxi,
monster races.
The Oran?
Furbolg.
The Orans?
The
The flying ones?
Oh, that one
birds.
is in the new one. The ASMR?
No, the Aarakocra.
Aarakocra, that's what it is.
Gotcha. Yeah, the monster races
No,
you can find in
Aarakocra
Volos.
is from Elemental Evil.
It is?
Yep.
What about the...
But the Kenku is not.
Correct.
And
The
the...
Furbolg.
And the...
Mermans.
Yeah.
The Tritons.
Yeah.
Tritons. I want to call them Tridents, but they are just Tritons.
Yes.
They carry tridents.
All right. That's just racist. Okay.
Yeah.
Just because they're mer people
Doesn't mean
doesn't
they have
mean
to
they
have a
carry
trident.
tridents.
God.
Pretty sure they make it.
And today is the
something
day
dealing
we
with-
kick one person out for racism.
Exactly. Not the first time we've had to do it.
Fuckfish people.
Oh! Throw down, deep on the ground.
I wish I could throw something on the floor right now. Like, I wish I could tip my mic over and just charge you.
Please don't.
It just doesn't have the same sound. Or,
No.
You know,
Nope.
design.
That's where we'll end our session today. If you guys have any questions about this topic or any others we have covered, or suggestions for future topics, or hell, any question at all, please feel free to email us or tweet at us. Matt, where could people email at us?
You can get us at wizardscouncilpod@gmail.com.
And Abe, where can people tweet at us?
At Wizards Pod.
All right. So, until our next meeting, roll high on your loot tables.
Bye.
Bye.
Peace.
Hey, Abe here. Thanks for listening to Wizards Console Podcast. If you like today's episode, please rate and leave a review for us on iTunes or Google Podcast, or wherever you get your podcasts from. It really helps other people just like you find us and join the conversations we're having. Well, the guys and I will be off for 2 weeks furthering our evil plans, or the next episode. Probably planning the next episode. Until the next time our beautiful voices are in your ears, love yourselves and roll well.